Hello, everyone. My name is Sofia, and today we're going to share a webinar to see how to develop a multi-tenant application with WorkWithPlus. Thank you for being here with us, and we're going to have some time at the end of the webinar to ask all of your questions. So please, you can just write down the questions on the chat, and we'll be glad to answer them at the end of the presentation. Okay, of course, this is going to be recorded, so you can see the video later in the Genexus YouTube channel, right? So I'm going to start sharing my screen so we can start. Okay. Can you see my screen? Please, if you can confirm it. Okay. So, as I told you, my name is Sofia. I'm a part of WorkWithPlus team. WorkWithPlus is a Uruguayan company that focuses on enhancing the Genexus experience. This means providing more productivity to your developments, more automation, and a better user experience and design. Our company sells products in more than 40 countries all over the world, and we have more than 4,000 active licenses. This means more than 4,000 users, developers all over the world that are using WordPress to enhance the Genexus experience. WordPress has nowadays 5 products. WordPress for web, in order to increase the productivity in web development. WordPress for native mobile, to create native applications with amazing user experiences. WordPress for web, for BI, sorry, to include business intelligence capabilities into your Genexus applications. WorkWithPlus for audit, to include database auditing by working with triggers on the database, and WorkWithPlus for video call, that lets you include video call features in your applications. All of our products evolve by following 3 paths. By following the Genexus latest versions and features. So we are always available in the latest versions of Genexus, and we also take advantage of the new Genexus functionalities. So you can be sure that by using WordPress, you will be getting the most of Genexus. We also evolve by following our community suggestions, the suggestions of our users that work with WordPress and have a lot of interesting ideas and suggestions that we always try to consider for future versions. And also, we have an innovation and research team that is always looking for new features and new interesting functionalities to include in WordPress. And why I am telling you about the evolution, why this is interesting for this presentation. Well, most of what I'm going to show you today came from your suggestions and from this evolution, okay? And in fact, to enhance this evolution and to get you the possibility to have new features faster, we have changed this year our release process, okay? In this year, we are releasing our versions in a schema that is similar to the Genexus one, okay? Now we are releasing upgrades every 3 months, and these upgrades include new functionalities and bug fixes, okay? Until this year, we used to release one major version by year, and then we released minor upgrades with bug fixes, but mostly the new features were included in that major version. But nowadays, we are working in a different release process. So every 3 months, you have a wide set of new interesting features to use. So in this way, we work in a similar schema in comparison to Genexus. So this gives you like a more um, similar release process, and you can also organize better or schedule better your upgrades, okay? Because you know that every 3 months you will have a new upgrade. The current upgrades there are WorkWithPlus for Web 14 Upgrade 2 and WorkWithPlus for Native Mobile 7 Upgrade 2 were released on July, okay? And we are now working on Upgrade 3. And most of the features that I'm going to tell you now and share you about multi-tenant were released in WordPress for Web 14 Upgrade 1. Okay, so this new release process is important because you will get really interesting features and powerful features every 3 months. Okay, and this is also a good way. So if you have a suggestion or an idea, you can share it with us. And if we think it's something that will be useful for the rest of the community, we'll be glad to include it on the future upgrades. So let's now dive in the goal of this webinar. Uh, and we're going to discover how to create a multi-tenant application with WordPress. So, first of all, I'm going to share with you the transactions or the data model that I'm using for this example. Okay, there are plenty ways to create a multi-tenant application. There are a lot of discussions around that, but in this particular scenario, I'm working with a data model that is the following that you see on the screen. The most important part of this is that we are including the company ID as part of the primary key of many transactions, okay? In those transactions where we want to have the company as a part of the key, we just include it, and we include it as the first key, okay? If we have a look, for example, at the customer transaction, you will see that the first key, the first attribute is company ID, and then we have the customer ID, okay? They are both part of the key of the customer table, right? So I have done this same thing with some transactions, with branch, with product, with invoice. For the country, I don't want to store the company ID because this is like a most general entity. But for the other ones, I have done in this way. I want to also share with you another um, thing as an introduction because you may be thinking how to manage the security of a multi-tenant application. And here, our suggestion is always to use Genexus Access Manager, okay, the built-in Genexus module for security. This is a module that has plenty functionalities and it's really powerful, so you can create like a wide set of scenarios there. But in particular, for our example, we need to store for each user its company. Okay, so this is something that is not out of the box when you use Genexus Access Manager, but it's really easy to do it. You only have to modify the GAM user entry panel. Okay, that it's a panel where you're going to create new users, and there you can just add a new variable. So you can select the company of the user, and then we are going to use a mechanism that GAM has, okay, that lets you extend the GAM user information. So here you can see that I'm just using the GAM user attribute, okay, and I'm uh, setting a name for it, an ID for it, that is company, and I'm just storing the company ID value on the GAM user attribute value. And then I'm just setting that attribute into the user information. Okay. There are a lot of other ways to do this. For example, you can create another transaction where the GAM ID is part of the key of that transaction. But we think that this is the most straightforward way to do it, right? So this is something that you should do in the screen where you're going to create users, and then in the screen where the user login into the application, we are just going to retrieve that information by using the get attribute method, and we're going to store that information into the context, okay, into WorkWithPlus context. By doing this, we're going to be sure that we'll have the company ID of the user in the session, so it will be available at any time that we require it during our application. Okay, so this was like a little introduction, so we are like all aligned to what we are developing. So now let's focus on what WordPress for Web does in order to provide us multi-tenant applications. So to create multi-tenant applications in WordPress for Web, we'll have to do a quick setup on WordPress settings. Here we just need to add a new node, the multi-tenant node, and we're going to define which attribute is going to be the tenant attribute. In this case, I'm just going to use the company ID. And then we have to define an expression that will be used by WordPress for Web to create rules and conditions. This expression must define from where this company ID will be retrieved. Okay, and here is where you can see the importance of having stored them in the session, because here I'm just going to retrieve it from WordPress context, okay, from the company ID attribute, and it will be really easy to use it because I just uh, need to get it from the context. Okay, so once you set up this on WordPress for Web settings, you will have to update your pattern instances. This is like an standard procedure when you modify WordPress for Web settings. Okay, just a comment. Uh, if you are not familiar with WordPress for Web, maybe you don't understand in detail some explanations. Don't worry. If you don't know WordPress for Web, you can just write your name on or email on the chat, and we'll be glad to schedule a demo with you so we can uh, show you the basics of the product, and all of this will make more sense. Okay, I'm not going now to explain in detail some basics of WordPress. I'm just focusing on multi-tenant. Okay, but don't worry, you let us know if you're interested on a demo, and we can contact you and uh, answer all your questions. Okay, so once we have set up this on WordPress settings, WordPress will automatically do a lot of things. Okay, in particular, it will hidden the tenant attribute from the instance, because the company ID is not something that we want to see in every instance. It's not useful for the user because the user already knows its company. So it makes no sense showing this to the user. We also add automatically rules in transactions. conditions in list objects. So we're going to filter according to the company. We also add conditions in the view objects. We add all the necessary behavior to the search module. And we also automatically import the data from Excel and CSV considering the tenant. And we also perform all the necessary um, modifications into the discussions module. Okay, so let me go now to Genexus so we can have a closer look at this. Okay, here I have my product transaction with my company ID and my product ID. And if I go to the pattern instances, here you can see that the company ID is not included, right? As I told you, it has no value for final users, so it's automatically hidden. Then in the rules, you can see that WorkWithPlus has included the rule by using our expression. So every time I insert a product, the company will add it by default. You can also see that in the conditions, let me show you. In the conditions of the list objects, the proper condition was included. Okay, so all of these and much more is done by default. You don't have to worry about doing it in each transaction. It will be automated by doing that setup on WorkWithPlus for web settings. So let's see this at runtime. Okay, first of all, I'm going to access with my administrator user, and I'm going to show you the users that I have. Okay, here I have some users. In particular, today I'm going to work with Sofia Mayolo. Okay, this is a user that is associated to WorkWithPlus company. And I also have Jaime's user that is associated to Genexus, right? So we are going to play a little bit with these two users, right? I'm also going to show you in the database my products table so you can see the different products that I have. Here you can see, for example, that the beer is associated to company 1, that is WorkWithPlus. And for example, I have green apples that is associated to company 2, that is Genexus. So let me now access with Jaime's users. Okay. Okay, I have access with Jaime's users. Of course, this user doesn't have enough privilege to visualize security information, but this is okay. You can customize this. And let me go to the products table. As you can see here, I'm only visualizing those products that are associated to Genexus, okay? I don't see the beer because the beer is associated to WorkWithPlus, right? So, for example, here, okay, if I'm going to insert a new product, you can see that for this product, the company ID and the company name was already defined, right? Because this user don't is only going to create products associated to its company. So I'm not going to let the user select a company. This is done by default, right? And let me show you here in the search, okay? This search is something that we also included in WorkWithPlus for Web Upgrade 1. Okay, it's part of the new features of the new upgrades. And here, if I try to search by year, I can't find anything. But if I look for green, okay, here I can see the green apple, right? And of course, I can see the green apple information. And I can also establish a discussion here. The discussions, it's a interesting new feature that we included in WordPress 14. This is available since December. So it's a really powerful functionality. So here I can establish a discussion. Hi, I have a question about this product. And I can mention other users, right? So to mention other users, I'm just going to insert the plus, and I only see Genexus users, okay? I can't mention a user from another company. So here, for example, I can mention Aníbal, okay? And we can create a conversation between Jaime and Aníbal. If Aníbal access to the application, he will receive a notification about Jaime mention, and there they can start talking about the product, right? So let me access now with Sophia's users. Okay, now let me go to the products list, and here you can see that of course I can visualize my products, the beer, the cookies. I can see, for example, the green apples from Genexus, right? And here, of course, we have the same situation about the search. It will only look into the WordPress products. And we can also work with the Excel import. As you know, in WordPress for Web, we have the possibility to import data from Excel and CSV. So I have like a ready Excel file. Let me show you. It's really simple, but you will be able to see this. Okay, I'm just going to insert a new product, the popcorn, right? So I'm going to select this Excel file, right? The record was inserted, and okay, here you can see the popcorn. And of course, this insertion also includes the company. So if I now access with Jaime's user, I want to be able to see the popcorn new record, right? Of course, you can insert more than one record in an Excel file. Okay, this is just was a quick example. Okay, you can add as many records as you need. Okay, so as you can see, WordPress for Web creates automatically a wide set of behaviors and functionalities, so you don't have to worry about your multi-tenant management, and it will be really easy for any developer to set up this. So let's now focus on auditing, okay? For those who uh, don't know or haven't heard about WordPress for Audit, this is another product of our family that focuses on creating database auditing, okay, by creating triggers on the database. So in this way, by using WordPress for Audit, you will be able to audit everything that happens regarding your data, okay? who inserted a new record, who modified a specific record, who deleted a product, okay? So you will have like a whole layer of security into your apps, okay? In particular, WorkWithPlus for Audit also provides support for multi-tenant auditing, okay? In this scenario, okay, it's quite simple, but we're going to store, okay, in the same auditing database, all the auditing data from every company, and we're going to use an installation ID, okay, to get the uh, information of which company that record belong to. Okay, so to set up this, you only have to turn on this property, allow dynamic installation ID. This is just a property that you have to turn on. And then in the audit save user procedure, that is a procedure that lets you customize plenty things of WordPress for audit. You just need to store the audit installation ID. And once again, we're going to get that uh, attribute from our session. Okay, so here you can see that it's something really useful to store that on the session because it's really simple to get it in any part of your application. Okay, so you only have to set up these two things, then you will run your knowledge base. WordPress for Audit will create all the necessary triggers. You don't have to worry about that because that's an automatic process. And you will have your auditing ready to use. Let's see some examples. Okay, here I'm still logged with my Sophia's user. So I'm going just to, for example, create a new product. Okay, let me insert a new product. I'm going to add a red wine, right? I'm going to confirm. And now I'm going to go to the auditing logs screen, okay? This is a backend that WorkWithPlus for Audit automatically creates so you can visualize all the audited data, okay? This is something that is done by default by the product. So here you can see that Sophia has done an insert on the products table and has included the red wine product. Here, of course, you can also see that the popcorn, okay, that I created by using the import functionality also was audited, okay? If I open this record, I can see the date, of course, the record installation ID, that is one that belongs to WordPress company ID. I can see the user, okay. I can also see the database user, and there are other informations that you can visualize and analyze. Of course, you can see the attributes. Okay, here I don't have a null value because this is not an update, but I can see any new value. I can see the related information and the history. Okay, here the history is only the insert that I have just done, but let me go back to the products list and I'm going to update the red wine, just change it for Tanat wine, the signature wine from Uruguay, and I'm just going to change the price. And let me go back to the auditing screen. And here you can see that the update is now recorded. And we can open this. And of course, we can visualize all the general information. And now we can see the old value and the new one. Okay. And if I go back to the history, now I can see all the traceability of that record. Okay, so I can go back to the moment it was inserted and I can see everything that happened with that specific record. With WorkWithPlus for Audit, it's also really simple to define exactly what do you want to audit, okay? You can just turn on and off auditing from tables. You can define that a table will be audited in insert mode, in update mode, or in delete mode, or you can just create your own combination here. Okay, you have that granularity, so you can define exactly what you want to audit. And of course, we can also define which attribute do you want to audit. In most scenarios, you don't need to audit every attribute for every table. There is like most sensitive data that you need to audit. Okay, so you can really customize your auditing and create your own specific behavior, right? So in simple steps, you can create like a whole layer of auditing that will increase a lot the security of your applications and the traceability of your records. And you can also do it in a multi-tenant scenario. And let's go on now and talk about WorkWithPlus for BI. WorkWithPlus for Business Intelligence, it's a product that lets you introduce business intelligence functionalities into your Genexus applications. And we follow a really interesting approach where the queries are executed in natural language, right? So this is a really interesting way to interact with our data and get the most important metrics and measures from our information. So we're going to create a cube with WorkPlus for BI to analyze our sales. Okay, so let me show you. I have an invoice transaction here, like the typical invoice um, data with the company ID, of course, the invoice ID, the company name, country name, branch, the invoice total, of course, and I have like the products, okay, with the subtotals and the quantities. So I want to create a cube by using the invoice transaction so I can analyze the information of my companies, okay, and my sales. So to create a cube, it's really simple. You only have to use this wizard. Here, I'm going to do this really fast because this is not the focus of the webinar. If you want to know about WorkPlus for BI in more detail, we'll be glad to have a presentation with you. So just let us know and we can schedule it. I'm here going to select some attributes from the invoice that are important to analyze: the invoice date, the invoice total, the customer, the branch with the branch name and the geolocation, the company, of course. Okay, so I can include any attribute that I want to include in my analysis. Here, I just need to change the name of this attribute in the cube because we're going to do the queries in natural language. So it's important to set names that are familiar to our final users. Okay. And then I'm just ready to go on. Okay, here WordPress for BI is checking that exists a Genexus navigation that includes all these attributes. And once this is checked and it's okay, I can go on to step 3 where I can confirm the creation of the cube. When I press the finish button, three things will happen. WordPress for BI will create this cube in an independent database, so our queries won't affect the performance of our operational users. In second place, WordPress for BI will create the extract, transform, and load procedures, so the ETL process is automatically done. And in third place, it will create all the necessary objects within the knowledge base, so you can just run the cubes panel and query your information. So I'm going to uh, play with the admin user. Okay, so you can see the information that the admin user can visualize, and you can see the user experience that we provide in WordPress for BI. Okay, here at the beginning, the user has like an empty space where the user can just write down the queries in natural language. Here you can see some tips and examples. Okay, but this is really simple. I'm just going, for example, to calculate the average cost by company. Okay, and here the admin user can visualize that we have both Genexus and WordPress. Okay, this information is shown by default in a chart, but of course I can visualize it in other ways, like a table. And here we can see both companies because I'm the admin user, so I can see everything. Of course, I can explore this information and cross this query with other attributes, for example, customer and branch. So here you can see that Genexus for the customer Valeria and the branch for it has like a specific average, and the same for WordPress and customer Laura a branch too. Okay, so now I want to define which attributes an user can visualize within a cube. And in this case, I don't want that a not admin user can visualize the company because, as we have said before, it makes no sense for the user to see its own company. And we also want to define which data a user can visualize within a cube. So I only want that Sophia's user can visualize WordPress data and that Jaime's user can only visualize Genexus data. So to do this, WordPress for BI automatically includes, okay, a procedure. Let me show you. Okay, this is a procedure that is called BI Managed Security. And this procedure is going to create views over the cubes, so you can define exactly which attributes and which data a user can visualize. You only need to include this procedure in the screen where you create new users. By default, this screen is the GAM user entry. So here in the events, when a user is created, okay, you only need to call this procedure, okay? And let me show you. This procedure only requires the first name of the user that you are creating, the last name, the email, that is information that you have here because you are creating that user, the username. And here I'm defining that for this user, I don't want that this user can visualize the company attribute from the cube. And I'm also defining that I want this user to visualize only the information of his company, right? So just by adding this line, okay, you will create like the whole multi-tenant behavior. Okay, you don't have to worry about the content of this procedure. This is out of the box, and it's something that you just call it and will create all the behavior. So let me now access with Jaime's users. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same query that I have done with my admin user. Okay, I'm going to do the average cost by company. And here I only see like a plain data. I don't see a chart. I just see the cost of the average cost of Genexus, right? Of course, if I cross this query by branch and customer, you will see that I only visualize Valeria's data and branch 4, right? So let me show you exactly the same with Sophia's users. Sorry, I was using this one. And invoice cube. And let's do exactly the same once again. Average cost by customer. Okay, and I only see, sorry, by company. Okay, I only see just this information. And of course, I can cross, I can filter the information. Okay, the product has a lot of other possibilities. It has a wizard where you can create your own query if you don't know at the beginning how to do it in natural language. We also have the possibility to create dashboards with specific measures and indicators. There are a lot of other functionalities that, of course, you can check them out in our documentation, or we can schedule a demo for you if you want to focus on WorkPlus for VI, right? So in just some minutes, we created a multi-tenant cube to analyze our information in a really interesting way by using natural language. So we added a powerful tool in just a few minutes, right? So just to wrap up, you can download everything that I have shown you here, the knowledge base, the slides, some resources with links to other documentation, because all of this is properly explained in our documentation center. So if you want to have a closer look at all of this, you can access wordplus.com/webinar, and you will be able to download all of these, and you can play around with this knowledge base and see more details, right? Remember that we have a lot of other resources for you. We have the Developer Center to download the latest versions of these products. We have trial versions of all these products, so you can download them for free and try all of these in your scenarios, in your applications, and try all of these functionalities in your own environments. We also have the customer portal. If you have any question, you just let us know, and our team will be happy to answer all your questions. And we also have the documentation center where you can visualize trainings and technical documentation of our products, right? So thank you very much for being here with us. Okay, now we'll be glad to answer some of your questions. Perfect. Let's see Shimi's question. What would be a solution to have a user who can maintain any tenant data without having to be a user of all companies? Mm, okay, Shimi, there I recommend you to have a look at GAM implementation for multi-tenant, because GAM has its own like multi-tenant implementation. Okay, this that I have shown you is like just a little explanation about all of that, but GAM has its own like a way to create a multi-tenant application with many repositories and being able to access the information with or access the security information with OAuth protocol. So maybe there you can find a way to achieve that. Okay, so I suggest you to have a look at GAM multi-tenant implementation. Okay, and of course, then we can help you to implement any of that. Jack, hi Jack. What happens if you enter the ID for another company's product in the the company ID is included by rules. Okay, so uh, maybe you don't have to use them as parameters, and of course you can always work with the encrypt parameters property, so you don't have like the plain value there. Okay, but the company ID is set up with a rule. Okay, so even if you get that value by parameter, the rule will be executed and will store the proper value. Hi, Chef. If you have a username Bob in the first tenant, then his user might be B. Smith. If you have another user named Brandy Smith in a second tenant, her username, uh, I think that GAM doesn't allow you to have the same username. Okay, if you're working like in the general GAM scenario with the same repository, I'm almost sure that you won't be able to do that. But maybe if you work with a multi-tenant GAM scenario, that is possible. Okay, it's the same that I was explaining to Shimi. GAM has its own way to create multi-tenant. Okay, uh, so maybe that's the better way to explore that. I just was showing you like a simple example, so then I can show you the WordPress features. Okay, but there is a wide set of configurations in GAM that you can do for multi-tenant. Jimmy, I have been testing multi-tenant. On a given object, I turn off the multi-tenant property. Rules and events get updated, but attribute doesn't get added to the layout, having to add it manually. Since the tenant ID is mandatory because it's part of the key. Okay. Okay, we can, yes, I agree with you, Shimi. We can have a look at this. Maybe you can send it to our support team uh, and we can have a closer look. But in general, I agree with you that attribute should be added automatically. So maybe we can include it in future versions. But please send the case to our support so we can have like a better look of the problem. Jack, how does the import process handle foreign keys? If I'm importing a transaction that stores a numeric key for a type of status, what gets imported to the test? Okay, Jack, to the use the to the import procedure, we are using business components. So the referential integrity is already done by the business component. Okay. So we work like with a standard BC, and by using all the validations that BCs already do. So I don't think there's a problem with that. Maybe if you have like a concrete scenario where something is happening and it's not working properly, you can just let us know, and we can analyze it a little better. Gustavo, basically this can be used to create conditions process easier, right? Yes, you can create the conditions, but it's not only the conditions, okay? We are creating conditions, rules, we are adding behavior into the search functionality, into the import functionality, in the view object. So, of course, you can create all of these manually, okay, by adding all these uh, validations in every object, but this is done automatically and is much faster than doing it manually. But yes, you can, by using, for example, previous WorkWithPlus versions, you were able to create most of this behavior, but and even automate that by creating automatic rules and automatic conditions in our templates. But now this is like out of the box. You just define your attribute, you just define your expression, and WorkWithPlus does it for you. Reynaldo asks how to hide developer menu. Do you mean, let me see if I'm understanding well. I think that you mean this developer menu, not the Genexus developer menu by default. To hide this, okay, you only have to work with the data provider that loads the menu. Okay, you just it's just a data provider.
Sophia, are you sharing your screen right now?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
maybe Aníbal, you can change the there. Now we see your screen. Thank you.
Sorry. I was guessing that Reynaldo asked about this developer menu, okay, not the Genexus developer menu screen. I think he's talking about this. And to hide it, you only need to open the menu data provider, okay. And here, okay, there is an option for the developer menu. Let me show you here because this was already hidden, but here you will be able to see it. Okay, this is the developer menu. You only need to comment this line or remove it, okay, and that won't appear anymore. And here you can customize and add any other options that you want. Okay, we have a documentation about that in our documentation center and a specific uh, page with that. And of course, if you want to send it to our support team, please send it and we can help you in more detail. Okay, if it is dynamic, the menu is retrieved from a transaction, okay, and then you have to work with the screen that is created to manage the menu, okay? But please send this to our support email, okay? support@wordwithplus.com, and we can help you better with that question.
Okay, Sophia, that was the last question.
Okay.
So thank you very much for the presentation. We had people from the US, a lot of people from the US, from Brazil, from Chile in South America, and also from Germany. Regards to our friends there in Germany, and thanks for everyone for accompanying us today. And thank you, Sophia, for your great and brilliant presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity. Okay, and let us know if you have any question. We'll be glad to help you.
Great. So as you know, and as Sophia has already mentioned, this webinar has been recorded, so you'll be able to have access to it and review it on both WorkWithPlus sites and Genexus sites. And we hope to see you again the next time. Everyone, thank you very much. Have a good day ahead. Thank you, Sophia.
Bye.